Say, Andy, did you know that gods of death love apples?
What?
Ooh. Hey guys, and welcome to Movie News Guys, where today I'm Rich.
And I'm Andy.
I don't know why today we're those and we're not any other day. No, obviously we're Rich and Andy every day. But anyways, today we're going to be talking about DeathNote. And first off, I want to say I like two things about this movie. The cinematography and William Dafoe. And now 10 minutes of cons.
Oh, yeah.
So, first of all, I guess we got a distinct the difference between a good movie and a good adaptation. Because a movie can be a good adaptation and a good movie, or it can be a good adaptation and a bad movie, or a bad adaptation from a good source material. You know what I'm trying to say. Perfect example I always like to give is Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is my favorite book written by my favorite author, Michael Crichton, and it's also arguably one of my favorite movies by Steven Spielberg. Spielberg barely followed the plot of the book at all. For example, here's a tiny example. Alan Grant hates children in the book, loves children in the book, hates children in the movie, and etc. There are so many changes, but you know what? It still ended up being a fantastic movie. DeathNote, unfortunately, is an example of where they strayed so far from the source material. This is not a Star Wars movie. They strayed so far from the source material that it ended up hurting the movie because they got rid of some of those base things in the source material that made the source material so good. But with me, as always, is Andrew Irish, and he is not familiar with the source material at all.
Hi, guys. My name is Andy. You're listening to the sound of my voice.
Thank you, 2XL.
So I had heard of this this series, Death Note, a while back. And I have, actually the first volume, I have the book, but I decided not to read it. And that's just because I'm lazy and I'm really busy. But when I heard that the new American adaptation is coming out, I decided to hold off on reading the books because there's nothing like getting disappointed by expectations of source material. As Richie said, doesn't mean that a movie that veers from source material is going to be bad or that it's going to be good. But I just didn't want any expectations of this universe. So my opinion and what I'll be talking about today is coming from just it as a movie, as if there was no source material at all. And then Richie is going to tell us why the movie sucked even more.
That's right, because I have read the manga, seen the anime, seen the Japanese movies, and so I'm very familiar with this. Death Note has been near and dear to my heart for many years. So anyways, let's get into it here. I wrote down notes while I was watching this movie because
Wow.
I was so pissed while I was like 5 minutes into the movie. I'm like, no. By the way, I hope you've seen the movie if you're listening to this because, come on, watch the movie and then listen to this. So if you're familiar with the anime or the mangas or both, because the anime is pretty much the manga, they're pretty close. You know that Light Yagami, known as Light Turner in the American movie, Light Yagami is a straight A student. He appears to be like super straight edge, never does anything wrong. He's the most popular guy in school. Literally all the ladies would do anything for him. And he has this dark, sinister underneath his persona. When he gets that Death Note, he lets his inner demons come out, and he's very methodical. He plans everything to a T. He never speaks about the Death Note in public. He's very private about it, and he manipulates people. He manipulates his friends, his family, and he is very cold-hearted. He does everything for the progress of his own crazy plan of becoming the god of the world.
Wow, Richie, that sounds fantastic.
However, in this American movie, we get a whiny, bratty, unintelligent kid who it shows the Death Note off to this girl to impress a girl. I was like, what? He's showing that he's just trying to impress the girl with the Death Note? The Light I know would never do that. He saw me that, and that was we're talking about like 5 minutes into the movie, and I was like, they got the character wrong. And actually, I will say that they ended up, for the most part, I feel like they kind of split the character of Light between Light and the girl. Do you remember what the girl Mia in the movie? I think her name was Mia, and I felt like she almost, by the end of it, ended up being more of the Light character than he was, especially when we'll get to the twist at the end, and it's not very good.
Yeah, my perspective watching the movie for the first part, the character establishment that he is smart because he's selling answers to tests or selling homework or something like that. But he's pining over this girl, and some of the bullies in school who just do what bullies do decide to kind of start a little fight. He decides to step in and get involved to protect her, and he gets knocked out. And so right away, this is sort of like, I like a girl. To me, it felt like it was setting up his motives because he wanted her. And it's like, that's just so overdone. But besides that, it just wasn't done well enough for me to really latch onto that character.
I think that as a movie, and especially as an American movie, they tried to make it like kind of relatable by trying to get his motivations based around this girl, yada yada yada. But you got to know, and I hope you do eventually watch the original anime.
Oh, I will.
Because man, his motivations is all just power, and he will stop at nothing to be the ruler. And it kind of bothered me a little bit how much Light argued with Ryuk in the movie, because it's like he was like scared, especially when he first sees Ryuk. He's like, ah! And he screams, and it's ridiculous. It was almost like laughable how ridiculous that scene was.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, he gets the Death Note, and he's in detention, and then and Ryuk shows up in this weird thing, and it's very comical. He lets out that weird. I thought it was really funny. I'm like, okay, I can see where this is going. Maybe it's going to be kind of a not quite as dark as I was expecting.
I feel like that was funny, not on purpose.
Oh well, if it was, first off, let me say, I don't think the acting was bad. I think it was all in the writing. I thought that the Light, that actor, he showed some range in his character, but he really didn't have anywhere to play because of the way his character was written in this movie. So when he meets Ryuk for the first time and he explains some of the rules of the Death Note, this kid who's just pining over a girl, he decides, Ryuk tells him that, whose name would you like to put in the book? And so he puts the bully's name in. And then, but how will he die? Decapitation, he writes in. That's pretty morbid, but he's probably just testing it out. And so, he's looking out the window and he sees it all happen. Car swerves and then a ladder just chops his head off. Super gore. It was amazing. It was really good visual effects. I'm like, oh, they're really setting the tone. So I'm expecting this to be a moment for him to be like, holy crap, this power is, it's, you got to use it responsibly, because he was just a bully. And so to show that kind of violence and then Light's reaction to it was like, no big thing. It didn't feel like it was there was anything going on behind the eyes of like, he deserved this kind of a thing. It was just sort of no big deal. This guy's half his head just flew off. Yeah. And right away I was like, I don't like the tone. If they're going to show that kind of fantasy violence, it has to have some sort of responsibility, I think, at least to some hero. But it just played it off as a very light, comedic, like, he's dead.
Yeah. In the original story, when Light finds the Death Note, he reads all of the rules himself. And then he tests it out, and he's at first shocked. He is genuinely shocked the first time, and then he decides he almost immediately decides that he's going to use this power to for his own deeds, his evil deeds, his own power, and he starts writing the all the names. By the time Ryuk finally shows up, because that was another thing that bothered me, Ryuk. Like, he basically coerced, in the American movie, coerced Light into doing it when Light didn't want to. He didn't have to force Light to do it. Light did it before Ryuk even showed up. And Light already had his grand plan in motion before Ryuk showed up. So when Ryuk shows up, Light is like a little startled at first, but then he's like, you must be the Shinigami. I've been waiting for you. Because that is the character of Light. He's calm, he's cool, he's collected, and he's a man who knows what he wants, and he's just like pure evil. Not in this American adaptation.
No. It goes off to the next, the next death scene or whatever. He's sitting there at the gym, and the girl he likes comes up to him. It's like, hey, what's that? Death Note? And he's like, no. Okay, you want to see it? Yeah. And then they just start playing with it, and it doesn't feel like he's understanding the severity of his actions to where he's plotting to do it for either good or evil.
He was just like, time to show off to this girl. Yeah. It was very Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, his motive for using the book at first was bad, and that's when I had to pause the movie and be like, wait, this just doesn't make any sense. And then when he realizes, hey, let's use it for good. Let's create a symbol, an icon, so that that way people will be scared to do any crimes. And then, boom, montage, and you don't get to see all the potentially cool stuff that he does with the power. And then it just goes into him and the girl like making out while they're looking online to find. It's not even like as good as Natural Born Killers, where it's like you could tell that they were at least on the same page. This was like, hey, let's make out.
And
hey, let's
like,
kill people.
At one point, he's like, you want to make some popcorn and write some names in the book? It was like so lame because Light always takes his work very seriously in the source material. And let's talk about another thing. So Light's dad just like in the source material, he is the chief of police or a police captain. And is in charge of the Kira case. Because once they find out that Kira is in Seattle, he becomes in charge. And just like in the source material, his dad is in charge of the Tokyo, police or whatever. So they ruined one of the best twists and surprises in this movie. And I mean, among other things that they ruined. But one of the things I love about the original manga and, of course, the anime is that during the first 8 or so episodes, Light is doing all these horrible things, and it keeps cutting back and forth between him and Ryuk, and I'll get to his relationship with Ryuk in a second. It keeps cutting back and forth between him and Ryuk doing the Death Note stuff, and then the chief of police trying to find and capture Kira. We don't find out until like the 9th episode of the anime that that's Light's dad, and it's such a great surprise because Light's at home one day, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, hi, Dad," and it's the chief of police, the other story we've been following, the guy trying to catch Kira.
Interesting.
And it's this great twist that is completely just not in the movie at all.
I could see why they didn't do it, but they
only have an hour and a half.
Yeah, they had a father and son relationship. The son was just kind of like to his dad, and to be honest, I think that the dad was a very likable character. He seemed like a good father.
He was probably the best character in the movie.
Yeah, from the very beginning. Also, if Rick Grimes and Steve Zahn had a love baby, that'd be him. So he's investigating this Kira thing where all these people are dying. And writing Kira's name in blood, so all of the criminals and stuff are getting scared. But still, there's a legal responsibility that this killer has to face up to because they're just murdering people. Even though they deserved it, it's still murder. So they're trying to find out who it is. Very confusing. I don't know the name of the actor, but L's handler guy.
Oh yeah.
Didn't need to be in the movie at all.
No.
He served no other purpose but to just connect L to him, so if something happened to him, it would make him go crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Watari is a character in the original source material, but he did a lot more than that the character in the movie did.
It was pointless in this movie.
And just like the whole, like, the way the Death Note is supposed to work is it's supposed to be like happenstance. I mean, at least it's supposed to appear like happenstance when these characters die, and they're supposed to do things that eventually allow them to do the things that are written in the Death Note. When Watari is like on the cell phone with Light and Light's like telling him how to do things, that's not how the Death Note works. It's such malarkey. And that's not the only thing. They changed so many rules of the Death Note. They got a few of the base rules right, obviously, but like they made up some stuff about, if you lose the note for 7 days, it's gonna go to a different owner. Totally wrong. And then also like the whole thing about like only the owner of the Death Note can see the Shinigami. It's supposed to be anybody who touches the notebook can see the Shinigami.
You know, I didn't really care about that. It's of course, there's a lot that has been changed from the movie, but I didn't know that. And the one thing that really made me feel weird about it is because why have to lose it? Well, if there's no consequence for the owner having it, what's the difference for using it? Because Mia wanted to use it. In fact, she stole a page from it and used it just the same. It's like there was no consequence for holding onto the book.
She stole it so she could get rid of the FBI and all that when, of course, in the source material, Light's the one that comes up with the plan to get rid of, like, the whole thing where it says she stole it and she had the FBI guy write it in there. Light did all that in the source material. He didn't need the girl to do that, and he had no problem killing innocent people for his own gain.
Well, in this movie, their adaptation, it just nothing made sense, even to the point where it was getting really close because his dad put himself in the line saying, come after me, we're going to be looking for you, I'm not going to back down, we will prevail. That's a big moment because if he didn't die, that was going to make Light sort of a suspect from L, that's exactly what happened. But he decided to stop. And why did he start again? Because of the girl. And it feels like as the movie goes forward,
true wife. Yeah,
his motive, even though they wanted to do good, his motive was still about this girl, and this girl was crazy. She had some of the worst dialogue in this movie. I mean,
get my goddamn book.
This was like Star Wars Episode 3 bad, especially toward the end. Some of the dialogue between them, it didn't feel believable because they didn't make their relationship strong enough. And it's like, why do they love each other? Because they kill people together? No, there has to be more to it than that. And that was completely lost on me. So why would I want to follow this hero? In fact, Elle and the dad, I was on their side, yet they didn't get enough screen time. So they were the two people that I could follow because they had an agenda. They were actually pushing the story forward, and I felt more connected to their story and their backstory than I did the main character.
First of all, I like Star Wars Episode 3, but that's for another episode of Movie News, guys. However, I will concede that the romance dialogue was bad.
It's just bad dialogue. It's a good movie. It works. There's some great parts of it, but just some of the delivery. An actor can only do so much with bad writing.
Yeah. I think, I could go all day, because I love Death Note, the source material. I could go all day about how different it is than the source material, but I don't want to spoil any more for Andy, who hasn't experienced the original source material. So I will just say that if there's one other thing that I liked about this movie, it was the actor and the character of L, because it was great acting. It was a great character, and he did have a lot of the same mannerisms as L from the source material. Of course, there was a few things he did that were not close to the source material, like L would never get angry and yell and scream and be irrational. He was always calm and cool, but having said that, for this movie, I think that L worked, and he was probably the thing in the movie that worked the most for me. I didn't like Light. I didn't like Mia. I didn't like, I like William Dafoe, and I like what he did with what he was given, but Ryuk was also, I did say I was going to get into the Ryuk and Light, and basically what I was going to say is just, I like how Light and Ryuk work together in the source material, and I felt like they argued too much in the movie and didn't really collaborate or get along, because, for the most part, Mia kind of replaced Ryuk as his partner in the whole Death Note thing and coming up with the kills and everything. So I don't know, they did what they thought they had to do to make it a movie, but I just feel like the writers of this movie read the Death Note cliff notes and then tried to make a movie out of it.
Well,
overall,
oh, sorry.
Oh, no, you go ahead, because I was about to rate it.
Before you rate it, I have to say, I don't know if it's the writers are trying to stick to the source material. Even if they did read the cliff notes, a good writer can write a good story. Mm-hmm. It could be completely far away, far removed from the source material, like Jurassic Park, and it could still have all the stuff that we need for a movie to work. Good character development, backstories told in a reasonable amount of time, and even the twists and turns in this Death Note movie could have been great. But it was faltered by just really sloppy writing. It's almost like it was just first draft and let's make it.
First draft, let's make it.
So that's the issue with the movie. Some people may love it and that's awesome. Me, I didn't, and I had no attachment to the source material. So it's just overall as a cinematic experience, it was all to me in the writing. It's just it's poorly written, but everything else, not too bad. Visual effects are great.
If they ever do Death Note again as a live action experience, I would like it to be a show, because I think that's the only real way to get that whole story out there. Is if you at least do one season of a 10-episode show, that's the only way, and I would like them to be more faithful.
I agree.
Having said that, I didn't like this movie. I didn't like it for two reasons, obviously. I'm a big fan of the source material, and since it was not faithful, and again, unlike Jurassic Park, it was unfaithful and it didn't work as a movie, so it just wasn't enjoyable to me, and I thought it was bad. I give it a 0.5 out of 5.
Wow. You hated it that bad?
Why? Really didn't like it at all.
No. Yeah, okay, so I watched the movie. There was ups and downs. I actually had a lot of fun watching it until it was over. And then once it was over, all of the stuff that I was excited about that made me have fun with it, the more I thought about it, the worse I liked it. So I would give it probably a 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5. Okay. Yeah. So we're a little separate on this, but you didn't like it much more than I did. All right, guys. What did you think of the Death Note Netflix movie? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you wish they would have stuck closer to the source material? Do you just wish that everyone in that movie would die? Let us know in the comment section below. The comment section ain't going to write itself. So get down there, give this video a like, tell all your friends about Movie News Guys, and go ahead and subscribe. I'm Rich.
I'm Andy.
And you've been watching the Movie News Guys.
Movie News Guys.
Woo!